My mother's journey. My mother was born in Maputo, Mozambique, a country in Africa. Mozambique was one of Portugal's colonized countries in Africa. Regardless of Portuguese being the main language spoken in Mozambique, my mother was still immersed in the culture, with the food and traditions found there. According to my mother, her home was a paradise, filled with beautiful beaches as well as delicious and exotic foods. Unfortunately, this paradise was corrupted with the Mozambique War of Independence when my mother was only 8 years old. The native Mozambique people were so eager to be independent that they revolted violently and began to kill all of the Portuguese people which resided there. My grandmother with her two daughters literally ran away from home and the rebels. They ran and stayed hidden in a Catholic convent in Maputo. Fortunately, the soldiers had respect for these nuns and did not bother them. My grandfather, however, stayed behind and thought that the fact that he was a police officer would help him gain respect and power to escape safely. This was unfortunately not the case, and my grandfather was hurt by an African-type spear. Aside from the trauma and difficulty, everyone was reunited later on and then flown to Portugal. I could only imagine what my mother was thinking when she was on the airplane. She just lost everything. Her home, her things. She had nothing but the clothes on her back, memories, and her family to support her. Once they landed in Portugal, my mother went to a small town in Portugal called Rebelo. Her grandparents and family all lived there, and since they had no place to stay, they went to my mother's grandmother's house, a small cottage home in an extremely small town. She knew no one there, and it was difficult for her to adapt and live comfortably since everything was taken from her, and her family had to start from scratch. Underprivileged and shocked, my mother continued her journey. After a couple of years in the small town, my mother's family all moved to Portuguese city called Coimbra. There, my mother was still unfortunate, but with the lack of money, she still achieved the honor in being accepted and attending the University of Coimbra, one of the most prestigious universities in the country. There she gained a degree in nursing and began working as a nurse in the hospital close by. Once she settled into her home, my mother met my father on a visit to their old town, Rebelo. They began dating. Since my father was an American citizen, they didn't see each other a lot. Practically every other weekend, my father would take a plane to go visit her. Constant letters were also written back and forth to each other. And a year into the relationship, they got engaged, and soon after married. Once my mother became an American citizen, she moved to America with a positive attitude. Unfortunately, another obstacle came to my mother's way. Unfortunately, her nursing degree did not fully transfer into America. So in order for her to continue her career as she wanted it to, she had to go to school and complete her master's degree. At the same time she attended Rutgers University and worked as a nurse at Claremont Hospital, she was raising me and my baby brother Daniel. Once she finished school, she began working as a nurse practitioner at a private doctor's office. She had a very high position and her own office and patients. She gained respect as well as prestige. Years passed, and even though she achieved a grand accomplishment at her new job, her personal life was suffering. My mother began to have major health problems and was always very stressed due to the high demand of her job. Aside from her suffering, she decided to continue at the job until one day she had enough of it. She finally brought up to the courage to quit her job. Many people were disappointed in her leaving and felt let down because she was very valuable to the office, but she felt it necessary for herself and for her family at home. Once she left, I noticed a huge weight lifting off her shoulders. She was now less stressed and a lot happier. Then began to read inspirational books, and yoga meditation became her hobbies. Her whole outlook on life changed. She was able to realize she was unhappy in her situation and left before it got worse. This courage and perseverance truly inspires me as an individual. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "A man unattached to sensations, who finds fulfillment in self, whose mind has become pure freedom, attains an imperishable joy." My mother was able to unattach herself from her wants and realize herself as an individual and let go of her ego to find freedom and fulfillment in her life. It amazes me how an individual with so much emotional baggage, history, and constant struggle can have a life transformation in her life. Through my mother, I am able to realize how strong someone can be. It shows me how I can overcome anything, regardless of what it is or how difficult it may seem. My mother is truly an inspirational woman with an extreme journey. Her moving from country to country, as well as keeping a positive mindset with the strength to continue her life when times got tough, is what truly makes me look up to her as a motivating individual.